get into it. Conversation we have every Tuesday. So go ahead, pour yourself something tasty. Get somewhere comfy and let's get into it together. Welcome everybody, and thanks for diving in with me, for doing the hard work and showing up. Hopefully you have your favorite beverage with you. Today I have a little bit of Josh wine. Go ahead and drop in the comments if you've had it before. The cab is my favorite, but I'm not gonna lie, I've had them all. And always a good glass of Josh. But if you're drinking water, good for you, keep hydrated. Tea, coffee, it's all welcome here. So go ahead and grab your glass. Let's get settled in. Our topic today is owning your power, ladies. And the crazy thing about owning your power is that in order to own the power, you gotta own the shit as well. What I mean by that, and I know it sounds harsh because we can't always control the things that are going on around us. However, I invite you to ask yourself, how am I involved in this? How am I involved in this? A lot of times we want to lash out at anything around us, the partner, the child, the government. And what I can say is you're giving your power away, sister. You're giving your power away to the things that you are blaming. And now, this is not saying that they don't have a fault or poor behavior, and I'm not condoning their poor behavior. What I'm saying is that you only have the power inside you. You only have the power for what you say and for what you do, and outside of you, if you give that away, you're giving away your power as well. So today's conversation is all about how we can own all of it. And by owning all of it, we step into our power and we become stronger and more robust and more able to pivot and bounce back. Sister, at the end of the day, the only one looking back at you in the mirror is you. So at the end of the day, it's not the person, it's not the something, it's not the thing, it's in you. And we have to remember that it has nothing to do with those things. And once we do, and we recognize that we can see our part in it, then we can change it. And we can do that ourselves without needing to reach out to external sources. When we don't take responsibility for our part in things, we hand out our power, like we said before. We're just giving it away like hotcakes, right? Because it's not going to fix us. It's not going to fix you. It's not going to fix women, right? That job's on the inside. That's something that only we can do for us. Now, I used to do this all the time, consuming books, mentors, therapy, more books, more retreats, more classes. Now, there is nothing wrong with those things, and I love them, and I am such a nerd for all of those things. However, those are the tools, okay? The therapists, the retreats, the books, they're gonna give you the tools. But in the end, the choice to use those tools and to do the hard work and to show up is something that only you can do. It's in you. And so, yes, for using the tools. Yes, for gaining them. Yes, for going to therapy. I go all the time. It's necessary for me and for my existence. But if I went and did those things and I was reading all the books, it would be like, oh, I just need this one more book, or I just need to take this one more course and I'll be ready. Do you know? My guess is that once you've done the things and started to pay attention, they're already there. The tools are there. We just have to be brave enough to show up and to do it. And that is not easy. And I will never pretend that it is easy. But that's where the change happens. And a lot of times we find, it's kind of weird, but we find comfort in blaming others. Comfort in blaming experiences. It's even something that we sometimes bond over. Like, oh my gosh, are you, like, I'm feeling this way because of this thing. I'm feeling this way because of this thing. Oh my gosh, if only this thing could change, right? And when we find that comfort in blaming other things, we're giving our power away again. And the other day I found myself in the situation. It was the weekend and I was kind of in a mood, like a little blah. And all the dudes in my life were all into something. They're all doing their own thing. They're all into something. And I'm over here like just moody and bored. I don't do well bored. Like I'm always have something to do. And this feeling bored just didn't work for me. And what I noticed myself doing, not right away, but I noticed myself like making these comments like, are you guys almost done with that? Or, oh my gosh, this is so boring. Aren't you guys bored? Totally projecting my feelings onto all of them who were totally happy and in their own things. And my husband totally called me out and was like, babe, do you want me to stop doing this so that I can hang out and do something with you? And I was like, whoa, interesting. Like, they aren't bored. I'm bored. And I'm looking to them to fix my boredom, even though they're all perfectly content in whatever it is they were doing. And I noticed that, like, okay, I don't feel comfortable being bored. Makes me kind of feel like I'm not doing anything. Being bored is great, by the way. Like, relax if you can. For me, I'm like, what do I do? And so I just started asking myself questions like, how am I feeling? How's my body feeling? What are some things that I want to do? Good question, Dee. Good question. So I thought of a couple ideas and I was like, I'm going to go do this. If anybody wants to come, they can. Totally not angry at them. Stay, do your thing. Come with me. And I owned my boredom and I didn't make it anybody else's job to find something for me to do. And I had a great time. And it taught me in that moment, it was practice, right? Because we have our tools. We read the books. We do the therapy. We go on the retreats. All great. Then we have the tools and we practice them when it's easy, when it feels easier. For in those times where you're having big feelings and you're in the mood or you're in the funk or life is just dragging you down or there's heartbreak or pain or anger, you've practiced. You practice showing up when it's easy so that when it's hard, your brain is going to give you a second to choose. Okay? It's going to give you a second to choose. That ego is going to be screaming, come back down to where we know it's safe. I want to protect you. And that new you, that new thing, the where you want to be, it's going to give you a second to choose it. And then you're going to have a choice. I'm not judging your choice, but it's a choice. Do you go back down and blame the person or numb the feeling or say the thing that you've been trying not to say? Or do you take that split second? I think it's like 3 seconds. Don't quote me on that. And you choose the tool. You choose the way you've been practicing. And you know what? It's not going to look like this. It's not going to be like, oh, I fixed that. Why is it coming back? Sister, it takes practice. And it looks like this. Some days, you're going to give yourself a pat on the back. And the other days, you're going to be like, okay, how can I learn from this? And that's all we can do. I have this great quote by Dr. Sheftelli, and she says, I'm going to look at it to read it, but she says, when we realize that both the problem and the solution lie in ourselves, the process of change begins. Woo, baby! The problem and the solution lie in here. And are we brave enough to make the choices on our own? And a lot of this has to do with trusting ourselves, and that's a whole nother conversation that we'll get into for sure. But just because you're in charge of it doesn't mean you can't have a cheerleader in your corner. It doesn't mean that people can't show up for you or that you can't show up for people and be their cheerleader and get the cheerleading in, because those are important. Create the community to support you, yes. But at the end of the day, the work is inside of you for you. And now we're going to get to the point where we can talk about how to make the next best choice. That's a phrase I learned from my amazing therapist. And it's really, I use it with my kids all the time. What's the next right choice? Because sometimes we're gonna mess up, and sometimes starting isn't easy, and sometimes it looks like we're climbing a mountain and we can only focus on the step right in front of us. And that's the next right choice. Sometimes you're gonna stumble down and you're not gonna make that next right choice. You're gonna make a poor choice or a choice you wish you wouldn't have. But then that just means you start again. What's the next right choice from there? So some questions that I ask myself, I like to write and to journal these things, especially if I'm having big feelings. But for you, if it's talking it out, if it's walking, working out and thinking about it, you do you, girl, okay? But I like to meditate. We'll have a whole conversation on meditation as well, because it's a huge part of my life and something I feel it's important for the world. But ask yourselves, when you have those big feelings or that change and that problem and solution is in you, what am I feeling? Where am I feeling it? And that's a hard one for us. So I like to just ground myself, put your feet on the floor if you're having especially big feelings or anxiety. Putting your feet on the floor, flat on the floor, grounds you in your present moment. You can put your hands up, palms up if you feel like you want to receive. If that feels like a lot for you, put your hands down on your knees and just take some breaths. Really big, slow breaths. In through your nose, out your mouth, slowly, okay? If it's really hard for you to stay focused because of those big feelings, use your fingers. And ask yourself, how am I feeling? Where am I feeling that feeling in my body? How was I involved in the situation or the outcome? What do I need? And how can I meet that need? If that feels overwhelming, choose one to focus on at first and go from there. And then I sit on it. I take some space from it. Maybe it's not engaging in the conversation because I know I have these reactionary patterns and I'm going to attack you. Or maybe it's that I just, sometimes when I'm processing, I personally need to step back and go inside and really think about it. I'm a thinker before a speaker. What I say, I really think about like how it's going to affect me and how it's going to affect the other person. This has to do with my empathetic side, and that's how I process. Not all of you are going to process that same, and that's okay. Take space from the situation if you need to. Go on a walk, moving your body. Oh my goodness, a whole nother talk on this. Move your body, to move the energy, to let it drain out, let it break up, let it move through. And then I face it and I take that next right step. And then that's all there is. You just keep showing up and you just keep adjusting or changing or pivoting. But there's always a next right step. It's always there. Sometimes it's just really hard to see it. Sometimes we're not ready to face it yet. And that's okay. You don't need to be ready to face all the big things. Anyway, that's what I got for you this week. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for diving in. I love you. I see you. Until next week.